Hey you guys, got a 1510 unrated against somebody rated 1391. I'm currently a lowly 1452 in rapid, having dropped from a peak of about 1670 a couple of months ago. And we've got a Sicilian on the board. So I've got the white pieces, we've got a Sicilian, and I'm going to play the Grand Prix because it's what Tiggers do best. My opponent took 30 seconds to make his first move, but now he's moved. So he's from the Isle of Man. It's off the south coast of England. Hopefully we'll get a good sexy kingside attack in the Grand Prix. Oh, early ace. This is a very odd move, isn't it? It's a very odd move. So I'm just going to go ahead and play f4. So the idea of ace, I mean, I quite often see this move, and it's to prevent your bishop coming here and trading itself off from the knight, I think is one idea. Also prepares b5. Okay, out comes the knight. So he wanted to bring his knight out, but he didn't want to fall for this, so this is fine. Just develop my knight to f3. My bishop can actually come to e2. There is a version of the Grand Prix where you stick the bishop on e2 and move 2, which is interesting. I'm calling that the British Grand Prix. Aye, now that's very tempting because it looks at f7, but will I just walk straight into d5? No, because I'd have two attackers and one defender. But e6 is also very possible. Also, if I put it here, there I can't drop back because c4 would trap my bishop. But I can come here, but then if he plays e6, I can't even go forwards, you see, that's the problem. So if I bring my bishop out, he plays e6, and this diagonal, for the time being, is closed. But then he follows up with this, and I've got to come back. Having said that, it's a lot of pawn moves for black. So let's do it. Let's find out what happens. I'm expecting e6, I think that would be correct. Yes, there we go. Okay, now I can castle. I'm not going to push d3 yet, because if he follows up with this, there we go, I want to drop my bishop back. And I think e2 is the square. So now he's made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pawn moves in his first 6 moves. So what he hasn't done is developed his stuff. There we go. Now, what this means is that the bishop ain't going there. I quite like that. I quite like to see that. I should also maybe have pushed d3 there. Just finish up my I forgot to put my teeth in upside down today. Light squared pawn wall are the words we're looking for. Okay, let's do this now. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, and of course the bishop can't come this way, so it's going to have to come to g7. But this means that now I've got ideas of going like this. I don't like it when the bishop's on e7, because then you can't put your queen there. Okay, so now the general idea, I think, is pushing the pawn. If he takes here, he's not castled yet, I can come in here, which makes life kind of tricky. Is there anything I need to do before pushing that pawn? I don't think there is. See, the other option is knight g5, which prevents him from castling, because I checkmate him on h7. But I want him to castle. I want him to castle because I want him to put his rook over this side of the board with everything else, and I want to attack him in this area. Yeah? So I don't want to discourage castling, but I'm going to push f5. And if he takes, I don't even have to take back. But I may do. And that really is... Oh, hang on. Now, if I take back, he's got knight takes now, hasn't he? This is the problem. So shall I develop my bishop first? pin the knight. If he pushes f6, I think that's weakening. I can put my bishop here. And he's going to struggle to castle, I think. Ha, okay. So now I can take this because he... Oh, hang on. If he takes back with a knight, he's attacking my queen. Then I take his queen. He takes my queen. Right, so look at this. There, knight takes. I take queen. He takes queen. Then my bishop slides back and takes the knight. I believe I've won a piece. Have I not? If he does that. Which you don't have to, but what else is it? Okay, I think he figured that out. The downside, of course, is that he's moved the g-pawn. So now we actually have a semi-open file to black's king. Huh. So the easy attack here, the most natural looking attack, I think is bishop h6. If we trade off bishops, my queen is on h6, then the knight comes to g5 and I'm threatening mate on h7. Apart from anything else, my bishop is on that semi-open file. Can't bring my knight here. That's a nice looking square for a knight, but it's not right now. Maybe ideas of moving this knight and rook g3 at some point. I'm a pawn down, but I think I've got a lot of compo. And he might do this. In which case I could trade off queens, but I think if he does that, I just drop back. Yeah, I'm just going to drop back. He can't come here because bishop takes. I really want to get rid of this bishop now that he's totally blown his... You know, this bishop, there we go, important defender here. So now knight can come in and I'm threatening mate in one. Question is, how does he stop it? He has two moves. He's got to defend this. So, push the pawn, I think, is probably critical now. Okay, knight back to here is also an idea. So, if I come here now, he can't take the bishop. I'm not worried about the bishop. Oh, it's defended by the knight anyway. I come in here. He's going to play knight f8, defending. This pawn also hangs here. Knight f8, rook in, then I've got knight and rook looking at that pawn. That's a find. Also, my knight is now free to come into this square. So what do we do? Do we grab the pawn? Do we play bishop to here? Do we play knight to here? Do we take here? Questions. I like knight in here, you know. Knight in here, check, fork, sorted. Oh, well, yeah, not to that square, Hunty. You muppet. Also, bishop here is really nice too. That's kind of sexy. They're both sexy. Capturing the pawns equally. I mean, every one of these moves comes with threats. So, which is best? All right, let's break it down. Instead of rushing into something, what is black's best response to each of these? So here, I'm threatening to come in here. Now this knight can't go anywhere, can't do nothing. I like the fact of pinning the pawn on the rook. That's kind of cool. Because a lot of ways that he can defend here would involve pushing that pawn. So there's a bit of that I like. But also this, he can't really push the pawn. I'll just take it with a rook. Oh, lordy. Okay, rook. I've made an executive decision, rook. And the reason is because I can now bring my other rook in, and all of these other moves are still on. It's all still on. This knight can't move, so I'm going to highlight it. A little blue post-it note saying that knight can't move. Right, he's defending this. Okay, that was decent. Huh. Here, so his bishop's now also looking at g2 finally as well. If I go here, and he takes. I can take with the pawn, can take with the knight. Kind of like that. It blocks the bishop, so he's got no attacking. Or not that attacking is really his major concern right now. I can still play bishop here. He might come to here, attack the queen, but that's no good because my bishop's staying on this diagonal, whatever. Knight here is a thought. Capturing the knight is a thought, you know. One of those moves where you go, that can't work, but you never know. Capture knight. Pawn takes, nothing gained. So knight here, or doubling rooks. Can't see a problem with doubling rooks. And at every level of chess, there comes a point where you have to draw a line and say, I can't see a problem with that, right? You can't always calculate every possible outcome. You don't have to be 100% certain. Now, that doesn't work, does it? Because rook just takes. I can come in here now, or I can come in here now. I think it's time for it's bishop time, isn't it? Bishop time. I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, all looking at this poor sod. 4 of them. How many defenders has he got? 1, 2, and then a king. That don't work. Now he has 4 defenders. Ha. Everyone's turned up to defend. It's like a house fire. All the neighbours are out on the street with carrying buckets. Okay, this is my first. I mean, this is my. I've played all the other 3 moves that I was going to play. I never took the. Did I take the pawn? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so I've got my pawn back. I'd like to put my rook here or here, but I can't get to either of these 2 squares. That's the problem because of this sod here. Can't attack the knight. Pawn just takes me. If knight comes in here, if he takes, this isn't the end of the world. Can my knight come around any other way? There's a bloody thought. Here, here. No. Am I missing something? Well, I've got 2 attackers on this pawn. It prevents the pawn from going forward, doesn't it? Oh, this. Now, if bishop doesn't take, he's buggered because I come in here with a royal fork, so he's got to take, eh? Takes. Okay, well, look, the knight's not doing anything. I might as well give up its life. Right, he's got to do this, because otherwise knight comes in here. We have cockerel approval. I mean, I've also, actually, there's a bloody thought, look at that. What about knight takes here? Knight takes, I threaten that again. Okay, let's think this through. Knight takes, what can he do? And I give myself a square for the... I'm doing it. Just doing it. Watch him turn around and punk me now. Yeah? Knight takes, and I'm threatening the royal fork. Again, how does he defend it? Rook here. Queen here check. Or rook here check. Yeah. Or do I just go in with the royal fork and win the exchange? Ha ha. Yeah, if I do this now, wave goodbye to your rook, unless there's something even eviler. Is there anything eviler than that? Okay, let's look at rook here, or rook here check. He can block with a rook. So I take, knight takes. I think this is simpler. He takes, rook takes. There's nothing for it. If he doesn't take with the rook, he loses his queen. Oh, you sod. Well, well, well. Huh. Oh, I missed that, didn't I? I take queen. Rook takes queen. I take queen. He takes queen. I take pawn. I go up a pawn. Right, what checks and captures and threats do we have? Or can I just move my queen out of line of this rook? Queen here, right, queen here. I'm threatening mate there. That means he either has to block with his knight or take the knight. Okay, see this? Queen here. I'm threatening mate. Supported by the knight, so we can remove the supporter, in which case he gives up the exchange with check. Great for me. Or he blocks with the knight, in which case I'll get his queen. Also great for me. He has a royal fork here, but it's defended like 4 times. So we're not too worried about that. It's always good to spot the pattern, you know? You know when pieces are this far apart. And the way to do it is to look at a knight, okay? And then look at all the squares that knight can. This is for spotting knight forks, okay? So any combination of these squares is knight forkable, okay? Like this. Well, that's the one that we've got here, yeah? This one. Okay, now he's having got to have a real think. But this was a deadly attack. So what we're going to do at the end of this, now assuming I win, which I may not. Well, either way, if I lose, we're going to ask the same question. Why did the losing player lose? Why was this game lost? That's the key thing. So did he see that? Attack the queen, bang. And I can't take his queen. Well, I can. So if I'd have taken his queen, he'd have taken mine. But that's surely checkmate. Checkmate. Good game that was. I really enjoyed that. Okay, and PD Cheese has been guessing. Well done. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is we're going to go back to the start of the game. And we're going to say, why was this game lost? Okay. Now, is this significant? This is slow, right? There are 4 pawns that don't help your bishop to come out onto the board, and they are your rook's pawns and your bishop's pawns, okay? Same with white. Now, moving this pawn does nothing to help this bishop come out into the board. For this bishop to come out into the board, one of these 2 must move. Same with this guy, one of these 2 must move, right? That leaves 4 pawns that don't help. Now, one of Black's issues is that by playing the Sicilian defense, he's moved the c-pawn, which is the bishop's pawn, which means that he's not actually helping his bishop get out into the board. What he is doing is he's competing for the d4 square. I'm not interested in the d4 square in the Grand Prix, so it kind of simplifies things. But the problem is, move 1, he's moved a non-development pawn, okay? Move 2, he's moved a non-development pawn. The development pawns are these ones. No, these ones. Okay, the royal family and the knights. So, does this harm his development? Well, we shall see. I play f4. He develops his knight. Now, knights don't need a pawn to move in order to develop. I develop my knight behind Freddy. Happy days. Okay, now now d6, and this is the point of this move, which is to prevent this, because I want to build a light square pawn chain. Therefore, my light square bishop is going to be hampered, so I would like to trade off my poor light squared bishop for his excellent knight, which is also his only developed piece. So that's the point of, that's the point of a6. Right, so I bring my bishop out to c4. Let's see what role that bishop plays in the game. He pushes e6. Now that's pawn move number 4. This bishop has no better prospects. See, with moving d6 at least, he's released this bishop, but then now he's shut it back in again. That wasn't good. All right, so I castle, getting my rook onto the f-file. I'm happy about this because I've got an advanced f-pawn. At some point that f-pawn is going to go and give its life for the cause, okay? And then we're going to open up and hopefully have fun on the f-file. He does this, we knew that was coming, but maybe you might argue that pushing e6 was a concession, seeing as he's got all of these 5 pawns now, all on the queen side. So all his action, well, not all on the queen side, that one, no, but you know, all his action is on the queen side of the board. So he doesn't know what's coming, because what's coming is a big old attack on the king side. Knight comes out here, slightly unnatural square, but then fair enough. So he's now bound to have to fianchetto to his bishop, which is indeed what happens. I complete my light square pawn chain. I'm not worried about this bishop at all. Okay, it looks like it might be evil, but then welcome to the light squared pawn wall. And he now just fianchettos automatically. Takes 4 seconds over this next move. Out comes the bishop. Okay. Now I break through. f5. f5 is like the turning point move in the Grand Prix very often. It signals the start of the attack. Now someone's very likely to capture this pawn, and you don't always capture back. Right, here I don't. Here I bring my bishop out to pin his knight. Slightly awkward knight in front of the queen. So I'm not interested in the pawn. I can forget about the pawn. He can come down here and gobble up all these pawns. That's just going to improve my bishop and give me open files for my rooks. Remember, his king isn't castled. Why is his king not castled? Because he hasn't quite finished development yet. This is move 12. Yeah, he's ready to castle, which he does now. Okay, now I grab the pawn and the knight can't recapture. And quite honestly, I'm not sure that the g-pawn should have recaptured. I'm suspecting that this move that he plays next is inaccurate, because it put a smile on my face. Right, now we come after the bishop. He attacks my queen. I just drop back. Kind of one-dimensional attack, because my queen is perfectly happy there. I can trade off the bishop. I could even win this pawn. He trades off bishops. Now his king is looking very naked. And then there's the threat of knight g5. Very, very typical attacking idea. Checkmate in the corner, while most of black's army is preoccupied fiddling around on the queen side. Rook comes out. I'm not even bothered. That bishop's defended by the knight. So the knight comes in, right? Am I expecting to checkmate him on the next move? No. No. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off, right? He's going to do something to defend here. This is fine. He had a couple of options, right? The other option was to advance this pawn, attacking my knight, and then to bring one of these pieces up to the 7th to defend the pawn. Okay, maybe that would have been better. We shall see. Knight comes down. I grab the pawn. I've got a choice of awesome moves here. Bring the knight through, bring the bishop in. But I figured that I might use both rooks at some point. Why not? Okay, point of this move. Well, he's unleashing his bishop for one thing. And he may be wanting to bring in his knight as a defender. So let's employ rook number 2. Right, he puts a major piece on 7th. Kind of makes sense. But it's only helpful in the defense of h7 if this pawn can move forward. So I come in with my bishop move. It feels like I've got a lot of firepower now, but he then matches me with defender number 4. but it does mean that everything's kind of frozen. All of these defenders really can't do much else because they're all busy guarding that pawn. So now I come in with my knight, fully expecting him to trade off. He does trade off, and then I find this move because of this, because of the royal fork that was set up a few moves ago when the queen moved. So he's got to do something about that. He does this. I come in with the check anyway. He moves, and then I'm about to take his queen, and I realise I've made a tactical miscalculation in that if I take his queen, my pinned knight drops my own queen, which still probably isn't the end of the world. I mean, I've got a far superior pawn structure. You know, material's equal. I'm the only one with a bishop. He's got a 4 and 2 solos. I've got a 4 and a pair, still tight to my king. So I think even if we'd gone down this route, maybe even take there, I don't know, you know, just trading off material, I'd probably have been okay. Also note that I've got very good control over the f-file, which means that his king is going to be stuck in this corner of the board. So that would probably have been alright. But I find this move, and now he has a think for 1 minute 17 seconds. I think that's his longest think of the entire game. And then gives away mate. So why did he lose? There's nothing wrong with playing over the same game multiple times, by the way. Why did he lose? Lots of pawn moves. So yes, development was slow. So you could argue that I wasted tempo by moving this bishop twice. But I was okay with that. Queen e1, very, very typical move. Pawn wall. Queen h4, very typical move. And now f5, very typical move. I'm happy that I've played kind of principled Grand Prix, I think, here. Okay, pinning the knight, trading off. So like at this point, this was a serious weakness. Luke, taking with this pawn. I don't know why he done it. Well, the knight was pinned. I still think he should have just... Ooh, but even though, there's the threat of that, isn't there? Yeah, it is unpleasant. So why is he in such a pickle? Why is he in this tactical pickle? That's the question. What happened for him to get in such a pickle? I play f5, normal pawn break. Now one option still for black is move the queen and go long. So he could have taken with g and then put his rook on the semi-open file pointing at my king. That's the thought. But he takes with this. I come in with the pin, which I think was a good move, right? And this is something that I've been spotting in my game reviews recently, which is sometimes like, you see a good move, could it be made even better with another preparatory move, right? You know, for example, I had a game where I moved a pawn and attacked a knight, knight moved, right? But behind that knight was my opponent's queen, which was undefended. So so that was actually a blunder. So if I'd moved my queen on the diagonal and then moved the pawn, that would have been awesome and winning, right? But I played the first move. I played the second move first, basically. But here I'm proud of this because we've pinned the knight, which means effectively the only defender of this pawn is now this. And maybe he castled absent-mindedly here. Maybe he failed to evaluate the threat of this. Maybe it's a thought. Right, let's look at the game review. Let's spin it round. Game review. Sip of coffee. By the way, chess.com developers, if you're listening, which I'm sure you're not, but on the mobile app, when you hit game review or analyze, why does it start from the end of the game? I never want to analyse my my games from the end. I want to analyse my games from the start. Okay, so a couple of blunders from me here. This is interesting. This is interesting. One great move. My opponent's made 4 blunders. Okay, so let's go through this. Go through it move by move. Knight g to e2 is best, apparently, yes, very slightly. Okay, d6 is alright. This is alright. e6 is good. Inaccurate. He wants me to play d4. I'm not going to play d4, fish. You don't understand the point, okay? And then I drop back. Bishop e2 is best. Good. So it kind of favours black, but that's what you get in the Grand Prix. Okay, so he should have brought his knight out to the more natural square here. Yeah. I didn't know why he didn't. Queen e1 is inaccurate. It just really wants me to... Why does it want me to play d4 all the time? I don't know. It's still less than a pawn difference anyway. That's alright. This is alright. Best. Excellent. Best. Mistake. But this is the move that started the whole downfall of my opponent. It wanted me to bring my knight round to here, for reasons best known to the fish. And that's inaccurate. G takes was best. Okay, good. Good. G takes f5, and black is actually in quite a dominant position. So here's what I think happened. I think black was just thinking, I know I'm going to castle my king that side. Right? So Black had stopped entertaining any idea of castling long. Because yeah, I agree with the fish. I think g takes is best. I've already castled, right? I've blinked first. I've shown my hand, and my king is on the g file. Therefore, get rid of the g pawn. Stick a rook there. Lift your queen. Get out of the pin. King here. Pair of rooks. Happy days. Yeah? But this, yes, I agree that was inaccurate. Okay. Bishop g5 is a mistake. Why? Bishop h6 was best. Take out his bishop. Meh. Don't know. And oh yeah, blunder. Wow. 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 Look at this. That is a 5.5 point blunder. Completely wrong. He says, no, you don't want to do it like that. You wanted to push h6 and kick the bishop away. Blunderama. But then I blunder. Actually, taking pawn is blunder. Taking pawn is blunder. Knight in there would have been better. Okay, but what's wrong with taking the pawn? Fish stuff, that's what's wrong with that. Fish stuff, I don't know. Oh yeah, well I didn't exactly calculate that entire line, Mr. Fish. Huh. Blunder, huh? But I knew his knight couldn't take. This is a blunder. Yeah, exactly. He shouldn't have taken back. I knew that. He shouldn't have taken back. And you see, the thing is here, I'm playing a human. I'm not playing against a fish. I'm not playing grandmasters. Total blunder again. So here, the graph just really goes on a wobbler. Bishop h6 is a blunder. b4. b4? What? Hang on. Start again. Bishop h6 is a blunder, and he should have kicked my knight. The what? What? I should have brought my knight in. But if he kicks my knight, then I can bring my knight in, can't I? Oh, screw you, fish. Screw you right in the ear. Okay. Bishop h6 is a blunder. Nah, that's alright. Inaccurate. Queen h5 is best. Whatever. Bang, bang. Okay. And now, interesting, black has a slight edge, but this is a blunderoo. Okay, what he had to do here was to develop his queen and connect his rooks, because that's a great move. That's excellent. Wow. Oh, wow. According to the fish, which has this like insane ability to predict what's going to happen, here black should have sacked his queen for my knight. Holy cow. So here, let's see what about this move? This is the move that I liked. Let's see what the eval says. Oh, yeah, mate in 2. Yeah, you're quite right. There, and then queen here's mate. Yeah, quite right. Well done if you spotted that one at home. Anyway, that was excellent. Oh, good, that was excellent. Oh, it liked the bishop move. It slightly fancied the bishop move. Fair enough. Rook AF1, excellent. Rook E7 is best, yep. Bishop H5 is best. And we are completely all over this guy like a rash. Knight C to E4 is good, but rook... Oh! Didn't I say that? Didn't I say that I could trade the rook for the knight, but I couldn't see... Rook takes E5 is best. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the moves. Wow. Pretty good, huh? Anyway, I did this. I was a little bit puzzled on how best to proceed here. Knight takes his... Get in! Rookie. Dancey. Knight F6 is best. King H8 is an inaccuracy. Should have sacked the exchange there. Yeah. Rook G5 was even better here. Rook G5, threatening Queen G7, mate. Wow. So that's the difference between +9, nearly +10, and +15. Okay, so let's have a look at Rook G5. What's he got to do? Lose his queen. Yeah, that's the thing. I've got... Oh. So, okay, well, with Rook G5, if he has to block with his knight, he's broken the pin on the queen, and I get his... Okay. Yes, I can work that stuff out. It's possible. Okay. Anyway, we didn't do that. King goes there. That's all right. And checkmate. There we go. So quite honestly, guys, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure why he lost that game, because he didn't lose it in the opening and all that kind of stuff. You know, a lot of the time it slightly fancied black, where he and quite honestly, he was doing better at this point. Castling was a big blunder. Castling without thinking, just automatically, was a big blunder. So we have a series of blunders. This happens a lot, right? All the blunders were like in that little section of the game. And then this. If he'd have brought his queen out, right, defending these dark squares around the king, he would have been better. Just slightly better. But he didn't do that, and that allowed my knight to come in, and once my knight came in, that was it. So I think that my assessment of this game, and I've been playing chess fairly seriously for like 4 or 5 years right now, so I'm learning to assess chess. But by practicing assessing games, I'm hoping that it's sharpening my awareness of what matters. So the critical thing in this game, and by the way, you learn far more from doing this than you do by playing the game in the first place, right? This is the critical blunt. You know, the graph shows you. This is the critical point. Yeah, he shouldn't have castled, but what he didn't do was he didn't fully estimate the threat, assess the threat of my knight coming in. Now, if he played his queen here, he's slightly better. If my knight comes in anyway, he's still slightly better, because he can drop his queen into here. And he's actually all right. Despite his weak king, despite this weak g-file, black is absolutely fine in this situation. Interesting stuff. But, you know, he didn't do that, and my knight was allowed to come in, so there we go. Yeah, this was the move. This was his losing move. Curious stuff. Okay, so rule number one, that's why we've got rule number one, and rule number two is my king safe. And yeah, it took a fair few more moves to for the game to end, but that was the beginning of the end. Cool stuff. All right, so all you beginners and intermediate players out there, I hope this has been really, really useful, because you know what, it's been useful for me. I enjoyed the game. Etum's not. Thank you very much, my friend, for an enjoyable game and an instructive one. I think you'll agree. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.